everybody, welcome to my channel. My name is Sharon, and this is a channel that is dedicated to all things related to narcissism. I release new videos every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday on all types of topics related to narcissism. So if you haven't already, please take a moment to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any videos. I would really appreciate it if you gave the video a thumbs up. It's a free way you can help me out. And definitely don't forget to leave a comment because I like to read what you have to say. I sometimes say that Sharon Watts saved my life. For those of you that don't know who Sharon Watts is, she was a pregnant woman in 2018, and her husband killed her. He also killed their two small children, a 4- and 3-year-old girl. Now, as if that wasn't bad enough, the way he disposed, and this is really the best way to say it, the way he disposed of their bodies was dumping his 4- and 3-year-old into huge containers of crude oil. So he just heartlessly got rid of his children, got rid of his wife, and went on his merry way, or at least tried to. You know, I saw him in the news. I can remember when the story broke. He was on the news, like he just didn't know where she had gone. You know, he thought she was going on a play date. It was ridiculous. Predictably, 2 days later, he confessed to her murder, and at that point, the story really got big. So I can remember, and this was, you guys, shock isn't the right word. I don't know the right word. It was life-altering. When I started, now she had sent a lot of texts to her friends. She had spoken to her friends, her family about the way that Chris had been acting. I recognized my own husband in Chris Watts. It was just, I couldn't believe it. Other people live like this. When I would read the texts that she sent her friends, I could have written them. I understood her. I was her. And it was comforting in a weird way. It was also horrifying because look at what this guy had done. I started learning about narcissism then. That's what got me learning about narcissism. And you know what? It was really mind-blowing to me because I thought I was all alone. I didn't know anyone who was going through anything like this. How could you even tell people? It sounds crazy. You know, if I'm telling somebody that, you know, my husband hadn't spoken to me for 7 months, the cruelty, the lies, how they are, the coldness, all of that, all of it, the way that they look, that deadness in their eyes. I was living that. I knew that. And to know that somebody else also dealt with it, it was crazy. And that's part of why I have my channel in the first place, because once I discovered this, because I'm probably like many of you, I lived in confusion for a long time. And I'm like, literally, why is he like this? How can he be like this? Why would he do these things? I couldn't relate to him. I couldn't understand. There was a huge divide between myself and my husband. So I wanted to tell other people this. Now it's absurd because I know millions of people suffer from this. Millions of people experience this. It wasn't just me. It wasn't just me and Sharon. It was you. It was God knows how many other people. Millions. But at the time, I thought I have to tell people this. I had cured cancer. I need to tell people this. I mean, it's ridiculous now, but that's how I really felt. I felt like I could maybe help somebody. And that's the main reason I started this channel. As time has gone by, I've gotten to know a lot more about narcissism, and I've done several videos called Crazy Narcissistic Ex and related to my ex. This is what I want to do in today's video. You know, Joe and I, so for those of you that don't know, my boyfriend Joe, the two of us, our exes are narcissists, and that in a weird way, it connects us on a deeper level because we understand each other. But we've had very different healing paths. I've healed much better than Joe has. He still suffers a lot from PTSD. He has, and I'm going to talk about that a little bit in today's video, he's struggling. So I'm going to tell you today a crazy narcissistic ex story about his ex. Then I'm going to talk to Joe about this on Saturday night. We release a video on Monday. We typically do the video on the Saturday night before that. So if any of you can relate to this, can understand this, have had this issue, please either leave a comment or send me an email. If you don't want to write it in the comments, that's fine. Send me an email. I won't use your name or anything, but I'm going to talk to Joe about this Saturday night and see if we can move past what happened because he's really been suffering for almost a week now. So Joe and I each have 2 biological children. So we're raising 4 kids together. The oldest is 22. He doesn't live at the house anymore. Joe's youngest is a senior in high school, and he does live at the house. And of course, my 2 do as well. They're younger too. I have 16 and 19. And Joe's 18-year-old son, he's finishing up high school, and he's a great kid, you guys. I love him. That's the thing with us getting together. There was like this, I don't know, is everything going to work out when we decide to move together? It has been so fantastic, and I just love, especially his youngest son. His oldest son I don't see as much, so it's not that I don't love him or care about him, but I have a deep connection with his youngest son. Now, Joe's kids, unlike my kids who don't have a relationship of any sort with their father, Joe's kids do. Now, I'm going to primarily speak about the youngest child because he's the one that lives here, and we're around every day. So Joe's youngest still sees his mother. Now, he lives with us. He sees his mother. It used to be where he would go huge amounts of time without seeing her. In the last few months, he generally sees her about once a week. So it'll be Friday or Saturday night. Now, Joe's ex, Joe has a restraining order against his ex. So she's not allowed to come within 20 feet of the house, 50 feet of the house. I can't remember the exact how many feet, but she's not allowed on the property, essentially. Joe has had a hell of a time with CPTSD. Now, he'll say this on the channel, and it's one thing to hear somebody say that. It is quite another to experience what that really means. Joe suffers. He still has a ways to go in his recovery. And one of the biggest shocks when I started making this channel, and maybe some of you guys can relate to this or tell me if I'm right. When I first started my channel, I didn't give any thought to men. Like, to me, this was an issue women had, right? Men, I don't know why I thought this way, but I thought that way. Men were kind of, what? No. Then men started commenting or talking about their own stories. And at first, I was shocked. What? Are you kidding me? A man has gone through this? Today, you want to know what I think? I think that in general, now, of course, not everybody, in general, men suffer worse when their wife's girlfriend is a narcissist. The pain seems eternal. The torment is real. It just seems that it's worse for men. I have no idea why that is, but I know some of you can relate to that. Joe also. So Joe hasn't seen his ex in a long time, except now let's talk about Saturday night. So Saturday night, Joe and I, it was Saturday evening, I'll set the scene here. Joe and I had recently gone grocery shopping. We were home, we were in the kitchen with my daughter and his youngest child. And his youngest child was actually nearby. He was sitting on the couch using his phone. So this is important for later. He was on his phone. All of a sudden, our two dogs started going crazy. They were barking at the door. So I leave the kitchen to go to the front door, and there she is. Now, I had met her one time before, but I didn't recognize her. At first, I did very quickly, but at first, I had this moment of, I think it was partly because I had the dogs there. I was trying to corral the dogs. They were barking at her, and it was her. And she said to me, please tell, so I'm not going to say his youngest son's name, please tell so-and-so that I'm here. And then when she said that, now Joe was right in the kitchen, and I couldn't believe she had the nerve to come to the door. I just couldn't believe it. I didn't even say anything to her. I literally turned around because I expected Joe to come out, and his youngest son was there. And he rushed past, oh, sorry. And he's getting his mother out of there, so she left. That set Joe off. Now, he didn't even see her. He didn't see her. I was the one that told him that she was there. Like, he didn't even know. I turned around, walked towards the kitchen. His son ran past me and pushed her out. And then Joe, I told him, I was like, oh my God, so-and-so is here. That started off a chain of events that he's still dealing with today. I'm going to set the scene here for Joe. Joe, I have been trying, you guys, for a long time to put a picture of the two of us up. I'm still trying to get Joe to do that. But that's why you don't see a picture of Joe. He is not ready for that. Although he's very handsome, and I don't get it, but we'll just let that go. But Joe's a big guy. He's muscular and strong. When you see Joe, he looks like he could take care of himself. And he can. Like, I'm not trying to say he can't. But the fear that I saw in this person, it didn't match the way that they looked outside. And I get that, because when you feel pain, when you feel trauma, it's on the inside. It's the inside. So I think sometimes maybe this was my problem in the first place with men. Like a man, they just seem stronger. Like, they're physically stronger. These type of things wouldn't happen to them. But oh, do they ever. So for the first hour after this happened, I just stayed away from Joe because we're trying to make dinner. Like, he was just, it wasn't good. Now, eventually, he calmed down. We ate dinner with my two kids, and he was in a better place. Ever since then, though, the man has barely slept. He has been up literally every hour around the clock. The only time he's able to sleep consistently is if he can take a nap during the day. At nighttime, he's up. He's just tortured. And even last night, he woke me up at one point because he was like moaning very upsettedly. You like how I'm making up a word? He was very upset in his sleep, and he was like moaning in terror. I had to wake him up. Joe, it's okay. It's all right. It's all right. He looked at me. He opened his eyes. He was still experiencing this terror. This morning, I get up. I know I've told you guys before, if you watch my channel regularly, I wake up in the middle of the night to do my YouTube videos. Otherwise, there's no way I could do it. So I woke up in the middle of the night, and he's up. He was up. And so I sat with him for a little bit, and, he was tortured. He told me, I can't sleep. And this has been happening for almost a week. The trauma is real. CPTSD, these type of things, they're real. So I talked to Joe for a little while ago, and I told him, because I happened to, the other day, I was flipping through YouTube, and happened, right? Coincidence. There was a coinky dinky that I heard somebody talking about PTSD. And what this person said is that, when you have PTSD, you generally are still in that time. Like, he was mentioning somebody who, he was like 50 years old, but he had really bad things happen to him at school when he was 8 years old. So when he dreamed, he was always 8 years old. He gradually, this guy's a therapist, he gradually had to pull him forward until he was 50 years old. And I think I can see that with Joe too. Even though, and I say to him all the time, it's a new life. She can't hurt you. It's okay. We're living our new life. Now, some of you, I made a video, the last video I made, I was talking about a talk Joe and I had recently, and I didn't think we were moving on the way I wanted to. Now, I was wrong, but I felt this, and I think part of the reason that I felt that was because in some ways, his ex is still a part of his life. She's alive in our relationship. Now, she isn't, but she is. Joe's moved on in so many ways, so I don't want to make it seem like he hasn't, but she still has the ability to torture him, and it keeps him up all night long. So back to what this therapist was saying, you still see yourself as the age that you were. And I think with Joe, he's seeing himself like he's still back there. Like, it's not several years fast forwarded. He's still there. He's living that moment. She can still hurt him. And she was pretty bad. So I get where he's coming from. I know you guys can too. But that's the issue that he's dealing with. He is suffering. He can't sleep at night. He's tormented. I mean, that's probably the best way for me to say it. So I'm going to talk to Joe about this on Saturday night, because what we're going to try to do, the man who said that, and so tell me if this sounds good to you. The man who was talking about the child, when you have PTSD, you're back in that time. He said a good thing to do is before you go to bed is you need to talk to yourself, right? And say, okay, this event, it happened a long time ago. It's not happening now. It has no power over me. Kind of like suggest to your own mind, right? So it's like, just tell yourself, this is not happening in my life anymore. I'm safe. I'm okay. So Joe and I are going to try that tonight, and we'll see how that works. And we'll talk to you guys about it on Saturday night. If anybody has any advice, what you would suggest that Joe does, please tell me. Write it in the comments. You can send me an email. Everything's down below. I would really appreciate it. One thing I really try to do on my channel is help people. I don't want people to be so alone. And for men, I thought about doing a video, and I probably will. Maybe I'll do it next week, about men, how they suffer. Because even though us women suffer tremendously, in some ways we have the advantage because people can empathize with us more. I think sometimes men, they're embarrassed, or maybe they feel like they're supposed to be a certain way, or society thinks they should be a certain way, and there's something wrong with them if they're not. There's nothing wrong with anybody. I believe fully. I've said this before, and every single time I say this, I'm going to preface it with this. I know it sounds crazy, but I really believe it. There's true evil connected to narcissism. So it doesn't matter if you're a man or a woman. What matters is how it affects you. If you're talking about something on a spiritual level, something truly evil, if we're talking about literally, warfare, spiritual warfare, Evil is stronger than we are. It's strong. We're human, right? Evil's a step above. They're like the angels, not angels, but you know what I mean when I mean how their strength. All of us, man, woman, child, all of us suffer. But in order to move forward, we have to get ourselves in a better place emotionally. Maybe some of you are like me and it's just been easier to do. Maybe you're more like Joe and it's been a real struggle. So tell me what you suggest. What would you do? Thank you very much for watching this video. I really appreciate it. I hope everybody has a great Friday and a great weekend, and I will see you on Monday with Joe. Bye, everybody.